Okay, today, Monday 25th, 2025. Normally I start on the 4 hour. I don't really even look at the daily that much, but 4 hour wasn't the clearest, so I wanted a little bit of more context. So after, I think there was some sort of, I think, yeah, this right here. Okay, after a pretty big push down, we end up sweeping out. This is an SMT, but just based on the structure and the fact that we were in a bearish for value gap, I was leaning more bearish on the daily, but it didn't really make a big difference in my trade. 4 hour right here, we had 4 hour SMT with ES. That was the first thing that caught my eye. This 4 hour SMT. And then I wanted to see, we still have from Friday, this 10 a.m. candle didn't have a wick, and it'd be a fill of this big gap, and then a fill of this, or yeah, at least a tap into this unfilled gap. So that was kind of where I was leaning. When we were here, I think this morning this candle, I was leaning more bearish compared to bullish. I think normally I would be more bullish just because, we're in a 4 hour gap. I'm trying to be smarter about it. I think it's been pretty helpful. But so 4 hour SMT, we're inside of a 4 hour gap and a 4 hour breaker. That was the draw. Like to me, yeah, this LR is a draw, but I guess it's a higher time frame type of draw. And LR is not something I really look at that often, anyways. But like this high, first off, this isn't even an important high. And it doesn't matter because we already swept it here. So unless we're talking about this high up here, which is all-time highs, being a target, then I don't see what else. And plus we had this 4 hour SMT here. I just noticed that. But yeah, to me, it made more sense for us to come down to here than did to go up to there. So it's kind of the logic behind it. Go down to the 1 hour. We had both Asia and London tapped into, PDRA. So they were both sponsored on the 1 hour. I figured we would dig into this and go lower. And right at another thing I've been looking out for, and it's been helpful to, here, let me show an example. Most of the time it's a Monday or a Friday, but it's those days like this, where it's like the worst price action known to man, and it's just terrible for everyone. These are the type of days that people lose accounts on, and I've lost accounts on. I've been trying to, okay, yeah, it's days like this, and let me show kind of what I'm seeing on days like this. One thing I've been looking at recently is typically these types of days, and of course, from like 9:30 to 10, you have to be careful. And a lot of the times, 9:30 to 10 will either start running or it'll just go up, down, and chop around. And most of the time, you can kind of tell which one it's going to be. Sometimes you can't, but I'm mainly just trying to limit the chances of me getting into that. The one thing I have noticed is if it's going to be a day where like after 10, so most of the time at 10 we start moving, if we don't move at 9:30, but if we're not going to move after 10 and it's either going to be a move at 11 or not a move at all that day, typically this is what will happen is we'll get this 4 hour candle, the 10 a.m. 4 hour candle will take out one side of the 6 a.m. candle and then target the other side. So you can either get a pretty good entry to go to the other side if you think it's going to chop, or you can just avoid it completely, because once we take out this one, if we start reversing after that, chances are we're probably going to go here, and then we're just going to go up, down, and have another candle like that. So that was one of the things I was looking at here. And 6 a.m. candle, we came down, swept out, we were in this for value gap, and in the 10 a.m., we hit the high, and we did consolidate, but we didn't first. So I figured we would keep going up. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm no longer bearish, but I'm not super bullish. But I figured I could get a scalp out of it at least. So that was the idea. But yeah, back to the 1 hour. There's London highs, and then of course we had the Asia highs, which I'm not going to target Asia highs. London highs are right there. What else? Basically, these were protected until they weren't protected anymore. And I know Moore talked about it. I've watched some of Moore's videos, and he says that's how he knows when to change his biases. Protected highs and protected lows. I didn't see any protected highs or protected lows that were to change my bias here, but I think overall, just structure-wise, But like these weren't protected highs. Was this protected? No, yeah. So there was no point of like, for me, there wasn't like a very clear, like, if this high gets taken, out. That just wasn't super clear to me. But um, 15 minutes didn't create any for value gaps. 5 minute, I was looking at the 5 minute quite a lot, and it was right here. I wanted to see at the beginning, because this was the 10-8 and 955. I wanted to see us sweep this and then invert this to go lower down there, and then all the way down to here. We didn't get that. And it was clear that we weren't going to. So we put in this high right here. We're just consolidating. This is like what, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 minutes of consolidation. I was just kind of sitting on the 5 minute, and I went to go do something else on my computer, and I almost missed this trade. At this point, I was just waiting for London to get taken to see if we would form a reversal off of it. I thought that was going to happen. I thought the two scenarios I had were we were going to take London and then reverse, or we would come down, sweep out this and into this lower 5 minute for value gap, and then get a good opportunity like that. And this is so the exact trade I took, and I almost missed it. I was clicked off doing something else, and I was like, oh, I gotta check, and then I pretty much checked and immediately got in. But we formed this high here, right above, sorry, right below London, and I knew we weren't gonna leave London like that. And these are also equal highs, which is something from Adanomics. I don't trade like him, but I still have the indicator on, and sometimes it gives me even more confluence. But I trade completely differently from him. I try to trade more like Moore and PB, and yeah, I think those would be the two main people. But then we formed that high. I was like, yeah, we're not leaving that. We come down here, and I wanted to see, where was it? This low here, which wasn't, ES was terrible today. I mean, I think he wasn't good, but wasn't that bad. I believe this was some sort of important low. Yeah, it was an intermediate term low. So that's what I was looking at, and I was like, okay, if we sweep this and then go up, I'd like to see it. Or if we SMT it, and we SMT'd it here, if I can, yeah, we SMT'd, and then we didn't have a 1 minute, we had a 30-second low, and this was the ideal entry. Would have been like this, and then wait for it to be a 1-to-1, something like that. That would probably be the most ideal entry. Yeah, and yeah, basically just 30-second inverse SMT within intermediate term low, clear draw. So pretty much checked up all the boxes. If you wanted to wait, you could have waited for the 1 minute change in state, and then that would be a good entry as well. Yeah, it was just, I think this was a really good trade, and it basically no drawdown. I was sitting on the 1 minute, and I think like right here, after we had this huge candle up, since we were so choppy, normally I would just let it run. But since we had been so choppy, once we got up to like here, I moved my stop to break even, because I just didn't want anything to happen, especially on a day like this. But just ran basically no drawdown. And yeah, let me see if I can pull up the trade. Okay, so this is a brand new Express account, and don't mind the tabs, that's something else. But it's a brand new Express I passed on Friday. Make sure the executions. Okay, this was the trade. I got in at 549. Yeah, because I was a little bit late on it. I think I set a limit at whatever a 1-to-1 was. So I got in at 449.75. I had my stop down there. And honestly, on this one, yeah, I guess because the charts are different, I was just targeting these highs and then hit. So pretty happy with this trade. Yeah, that's really it. Just a pretty simple 1-to-1, and this 4 hour thing that I was talking about is something that I want to continue to try to learn from. Let me see if I can find another example. It's just something I've noticed kind of as like a pattern. Price action, in my opinion, has been pretty good recently. But okay, here's a day that was just not really the best. It was a 4 hour on this day, 6 a.m. So we have this pretty rangy candle here, and then 10 a.m. we took it on ES, but we didn't take it on NQ. But basically, just, oh my goodness, these candles are huge. I don't know. It's just something I've kind of noticed. I'll definitely be taking a look at it in the future, but Yeah, it's just days like this typically, and we took it on ES, so there was a sweep on ES, took it, and then kind of just chopped around. This wasn't the worst example, or the best example, but hopefully that makes sense. And in the future, we will be able to show it more. It's been a while since we had one of those really bad days, in my opinion. Here's one. Oh, this is terrible. What the heck? It's the worst day I've ever seen. Let's see if this kind of idea shows itself here. Kind of similar. 6 a.m. wicks on both sides. 10 a.m. sweeps out one side and goes back into the range. And then the next candle should take it. So another one, so it's even worse. But I don't know. Something I would be looking at in the future. But that is it for now.